it wasn't the warm weather of Tasmania, but it was the attraction of a new frontier, I guess, because I like going up north, but going down south just seemed like a natural thing to do. Being a Kiwi, yeah, that's right. Another acknowledgement was like some of the senior people in this club have been down there, I believe. John, you've been down there, yeah. So yeah, it just seemed like a really nice thing to do. Go down there and have a bit of a look around and see what's down there. Yeah.
So when we were at the boat festival, wooden boat festival, what, year and a half ago?
Yeah, February.
Yeah, February 25. Richard seemed to spend a lot of time talking to the guys who made heaters and water warming stuff. So just can you talk about what you did for your boat to get it ready to go to Hobart, what mods you did and what upgrades?
Well, basically I'm a creature of comfort. I like things to be kind of like cozy. So I thought the best place to buy a heater for your boat would be from Tasmania, because it does get cold down there. So does that work? I don't like it that close. All right. Anyway, yeah, that's better. So check. So I went the whole hog and put a hydronic heater in there, which was, I spent like quite a few days having a lot of fun out in the boat there and a lot of swear words putting this thing in. But anyway, it heats the hot water, which is fantastic. When the partner says you'd like a hot shower, we can just push a button and we get a hot shower. But primarily, yeah, it's nice to have the cabin at 27 degrees, because that's how I like it. When it's cold, when it's 9 degrees outside, 27 inside seems good to me. Anyway, that's me. A couple of mods, just made sure the rig was right, of course. And I think I put an extra bearing in the steering because it's pretty rough down there. But otherwise, my boat's pretty good for doing that kind of thing. Anyway, she's pretty good in the ocean. That's really all the mods.
Okay, so me and Richard, just to recall, question, yeah, Con?
How does a hydraulic heater work? I understand it heats the hot water, but how does it heat the cabin?
Well, it's just like the old-fashioned, when you're a kid at school, you had those heaters on the,
Hot water heaters?
Yeah, yes. So what it does, it's a diesel heater with a heat exchanger in it, and you have coolant and a header tank, and it pumps hot water around, and I've got it, in the cabin you have like a heat exchanger rather than just trying to blow hot air around through ducts. You're transmitting or transporting it in hot water.
So is it piped all the way around?
Yes. Well, if you're trying to put it into a existing boat, it's actually probably easier to do it that way than try and put like 90 mil or 100 mil ducting everywhere. So they supply like 16 mil PIX tube. It's like a aluminium tube with insulation on the outside. So you've only got to do a returner and a supply, but it's easier to route that stuff than ducting on an existing boat. So that was part of the idea of that, Yeah.
And it just keeps circulating hot water around.
Yeah, it's just all it does is the heater does what a diesel heater does, and it's got a heat exchanger rather than transmitting air, it's transmitting coolant, and you've got a pump and a header tank, and it just circulates that around. It's a brilliant system. It's actually, I would say, it probably takes a fraction longer to transmit the heat, but it holds it longer and does it longer. Plus, you can heat your hot water at the same time, which to me is like really critical. Nice to have that at the same time. Yeah.
What powers that? Is it a additional motor, or is it
Well,
your genset or running it on?
no. So you've heard of like people put diesel heaters in, like the air heaters, right? So all they're doing is they've got so these things actually in Europe, they use them to heat up the water in the car and the heater. So when Fritz comes out in the morning in the middle of bloody Greenland or something or other, his car's all warm inside. So it's like it heats up the coolant, and it circulates coolant through your heater and whatnot. And trucks, they do the same thing, and it basically heats the coolant. So you, like the heater in your car is on, you can hit it so it starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, you walk out at 7:30 and the car's all nice and warm and it's all defrosted. So, no, can't hear it. Not above my snoring.
You don't have your engine on its own unit that you start up and it's powered by diesel?
No. No, this thing is a little, like a diesel heat pump. It's like a little furnace.
It's a burner first.
Little furnace. So it, over a night, it would use about a schooner glass of diesel. Like, it uses very little. And you just hear a little whiz when it starts up, and otherwise you wouldn't hear it. It's a great system. Yeah. Most boats in Europe have got them in as standard because of the conditions over there, you know. And Tasmania probably warrants it as well, to be honest. Yeah.
Condensation.
Well,
Condensation because it was hot on the inside.
I found that thing actually dries the boat out. That's what I like about it. Like, you can put it, you know, when you've been sailing for a while and all the upholstery feels kind of clanky and damp, you put that thing on and it's all gone. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the things I hate. You know, the boat feels sort of, it's got that cold dampness to it, and it goes away.
It's an interesting subject. Maybe we have to have a practical demonstration and go and have a look at Richard's boat one evening. Okay, Richard, me and you started the trip from here the day after Boxing Day. You let the Hobart boats get away from us. Do you want to talk about the trip down to Eden? Where we met Bill, where we stopped, and what we saw.
Yeah. So Alistair was obviously, we were all keen to go, and it was the 27th from memory, and it was not very nice. The weather was southerly and whatnot and whatever. And so we duly set off to Gibbon to anchor up and have a think about it. I think from memory we actually poked our nose out and we had a look. Went, yeah, no, I think we'll go back. And then, can you remember? I can't remember now.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that was in the morning, and then we braved it and left because it was about 35 miles. You know, next stop would be Shell Cove. So we actually we braved it and tacked all the way to Shell Cove, and it sort of wasn't too bad. I remember we found something that was like a UFO or unidentified water object, whatever that is. And we think afterwards we found out it was something off one of the Sydney Hobart boats. It was like one of those beacon things. But that was about Bellambi or something like that. And we notified the Coast Guard that we're doing all this and blah, blah, blah. And then they were pretty good. They radioed us and said, "Are you going to tack soon?" I said, "Yeah, we just done it." "Oh, okay, because it's going to get really shallow soon." And that was around Bellambi. So that was fine. And then we got into Shell Cove, and there was another yacht heading south. And of course, that ensued a yacht race. So and we didn't let the club down. We bet them in. They were like someone on the Jeannot
37 or something from Pittwater. Yeah.
Something or other, yeah. And we found out those people were quite good sailors in the end, so we thought quite good about that. So they were, we had dinner with those guys at the tavern there, and then we decided that we'd take it easy for a day because it still was fairly, it was on the nose and all that kind of thing. And Alison and Tina came down and had a lovely dinner with us the next night, and then we set off the next day, and that was really a good result because we had a lovely sail all the way to Bateman's Bay, and conditions were like more favourable. We had managed to get the kite up, and it was a good sail down. I think we made it there just on dark, wasn't it? Yeah. And
Dropped an anchor.
I think it was where Lisa and Andrew are planning to have a little shack or a house or something or other. What's that bay called, Lisa?
Oh, we're out in Bay.
Yeah, what's the bay called?
On the north side.
On the northern side.
Ours is Long Beach, but I think maybe it was Maloney's where
Maloney's, that's
where
it, thank you.
Coloured mooring is.
Well, where you anchor, but yeah. So it was in that. So it was on, because it was heading on more of a northerly. So we went into there, and
I think the next day we went down past Narooma, didn't we?
yeah. So the next day the weather had sort of become more favourable in that neck of the woods. So we set off, had a very lazy, lovely day just with a kite up, which is a good cruising sort of technique. You just put the kite up, sit back and talk shit and have a great run. And the boat just went, and we went. I remember looking at Montague Island on the way down. We were
Got into Eden.
saw some seals on Montague Island and got into Eden about again at dark. And lovely little bay there, Cattleman's Bay right at the corner. And then
the next morning.
next morning there was some other cruises there, and some of those people were people I'd met up in Laurelton. So they were sort of keen to go to the next stage, which is the chip mill further out in Twofold Bay. So that vacated a mooring. So we moored in at there's a really good set of moorings in there behind like a wave attenuator, concrete sort of like thing that just makes it flat as. So we stayed there waiting for Bill, because Bill was due in on New Year's Eve night.
Yeah,
That's right. So we thought we had some other cruises there. There was Zazu, which are friends of Lisa and Andrews and whatnot. And there was another guy that had broken a forestay, but he didn't anyway. So we organised a bit of a get together on Etrajon, and they had a couple of drinks, and then we did a complimentary roast dinner, of course. And then the next day we set off, and we had Bill, the cloud man, was checking all the weathers and stuff and routing and whatnot, and we had to beat up to Gaybo Island. That place is really cool. It's a neat place. You got a little there's a little bay in behind it called Santa Barbara Bay, on the southern end of it. So if you got any wet, you can get in. Even in a southerly, it's okay.
Did you say it's okay in a southerly?
It's not too bad.
How
Yeah,
deep? Is it really deep?
deep.
Yeah.
No, not really. No. Why? Well, it's shallow if you went between it, but no, it's okay.
No, for anchoring.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I think we put about 30 metres of chain down. Yeah. Yeah.
Bill, do you want to talk about Bass Strait? For those who don't know, Bill spent a bit of time in Bass Strait. In an earlier life, you were on CSIR research boats working in Bass Strait, and then later in your life, you were on organising some oil fields and oil rigs out there. Do you want to talk about Bass Strait and where the best place to cross, Bill? We crossed from Gaybo, didn't we, to Flinders, but there's a few options.
Yeah, my background, this is going back about 35, 40 years ago. I was a young engineer employed by CSIRO, Marine Research. Spent 2.5 years, mainly around Bass Strait, down the back end, what we call the backside of Tasmania. Saw some pretty ugly weather. Ugly enough that a 38 metre trawler that I was on, 28 metre trawler, we nearly sunk with me on board one night. Someone decided to leave the dog clip on the back hatch open, and so we had about a swimming pool full of water in the back of the boat, and she was going down by the back end. No one could get down there because the seas were just washing the back of the boat. Crossed our fingers. 6 o'clock in the morning, the weather abated, and we were able to pump it out. But unfortunately, our auxiliary generator was in there, and she was wet as anything. So that was game over for that. Anyway, so I've probably been in Bass Strait in my earlier years, probably I don't know, probably 10, 12 times. And the weather can get rather rough. And the reason is Bass Strait has only got 70 metre water depth. Either side of Bass Strait, so if you go to the western side past King Island, it gets down to about 4,000 metres. Go to the east side, it'll get down to about 6,000 metres, and in the space of probably about 2 or 3 kilometres. So what happens when the tide is rushing in? You get the water rushing in both sides of Bass Strait, the east side and the west side. And then when the tide's running out, it's got to go somewhere, so it goes out again both sides. But it's like a waterfall. And I remember one time we were sitting there watching the grand final of the rugby league one year, back in, I think, the late 78. And we're all having a good time watching the rugby league, and the guys up on the wheelhouse suddenly said, "Watch out, hang on." Next minute, a 28-metre trawler goes into a 5-metre dip, and this 10-metre wave then came over the top of us. It was actually the outfall of the Bass Strait quarters. The TV jumped off off its mountings. We couldn't see the rugby league anymore. And the cook's peas and ham fell off the stove. And he always looked for an excuse to take a bottle of wine into his cabin and go to bed. So that was it. He was out for the night. So we had to clean up the mess and have our own meal. Anyway, bottom line is, when you go basically from north down to south, it's always good to stay in deep water. Don't get in that shallow water in that zone. And it's basically a line, if you drew from the around about the lake's entrance down to the northern tip of Flinders Island, it's where the area gets pretty rough. You can get some nice days, but you can get some rough days. So we stayed out sailing down, basically in about 2,000 metres of water the whole time. And coming into Flinders Island, yes, it gets down to about 100, 200 metres, but you don't get the tidal influence once you're behind the island, or the east side of the island. So that was our track, and we had a brilliant time. I'll let Richard talk about it.
Talk about your safety gear.
Hang on. We'll talk about sailing. We don't want safety shit. Okay, so the track down, we were all concerned about this because you're sort of like a bit of trepidation about, we're leaving the mainland here and we're going that's it. It was 185 miles, like in one hit, and that was from Gabo down to the sort of bottom end of Flinders Island, a place called Lady Baron, which is like a port, and I sort of identified that place as like a good place to be if the weather turns to custard. You can get in there, and it's like right in the middle of a whole lot of bays and whatnot. So we had a brilliant sail down. It was like just what you want. It was like on the quarter beam. I think we averaged about 7.78 knots the whole way. So pretty good sailing. And we did it in 23 hours. So not bad for 185 miles, like nautical miles. And when you get down the bottom there, I remember daybreak came and we were all pretty excited. And you've got to negotiate a fairly notorious sort of waterway down there called the Pot Boil, which is where there's a litany of shipwrecks from the early days. And it's a place where, you enter in there and it's shoaly and whatnot. It's just what you want after you've had 24 hours of sailing. But not too bad. We got in there and came into Lady Baron, had a bit of a kip, and then we went up to the one and only pub in the place and sort of got the lay of the land, and we saw a Bacchanal, JP, a fast boat that was on the delivery back from the Hobart. And I think one of the good decisions we made, because I've never been to Flinders Island, but we sort of sussed out the local rental car mob. Everybody down there is super friendly. There's only like 1,000 people on that island, and so we're sitting there having a couple of drinks, and we thought, we'll check out the rental car mob. Rang them up, and the guy said, I'll drop it down tonight. Leave the key under the mat. Okay, so he dropped the car down there, left the key under the mat, And the next day we had a fabulous, like, we weren't expecting this, but we had a fabulous day just exploring Flinders Island. And if you ever get down there, it's just mind-blowing how nice that place is. Sensational place. We even got Alistair in the water, didn't we? Yeah. We had a swim. The water looks inviting, but you know it's going to be cold. but we had we explored. We went. I think we did about 200 k's or something, about as much as you can go. And we had went right up the top to Killicranky, where we didn't get any diamonds, but we had to look for them. And what was the most northern place? I'm trying to remember the name of it. Can you remember it? Anyway, up the top there. It's a funny place. Like, it was a Sunday, okay, and we're thinking, oh, it'd be nice to have something to eat, you know. Well, no. Sunday, no one works there on Sundays. No. She's like Australia about 50 years ago. Like, nobody works on Sundays, shut. But we found out from the lady at the museum, the Nautical Museum, which is another great thing. We found out that the golf club has a special dinner on that night. If you book it, you'll get that. You have to book everything. So we did that. That was fantastic. The Nautical Museum was like really good, wasn't it? You sussed out all the cooking arrangements.
Yeah, well, that's where we got good news on the restaurant.
And another really poignant place was Wyballina, which was where some of the white people back in that era were experimenting with Aboriginal people and trying to shift them from places and whatnot. And there's this, like, it's really one of those moments where you come across a like a church type of thing in the middle of nowhere, and I think you were really tearing up, weren't you, Alistair? Yeah, and it was just really weird. Anyway, I'll pass it over to Bill.
Oh, I'm back on. Okay, yeah, so Alistair's very safety conscious with us all, and so he made sure that we weren't going to lose anyone on the way down. And one thing we did decide to carry with us was this little device which fits, I've still got it in the plastic bag, this is a spare one. It's a man overboard device, and its purpose is that it's attached to your life jacket, and if you go overboard and if you've got a self-inflating life jacket, it'll activate. And its activation is it'll send a signal back to the to your GPS plotter and to your DSC radio. It's got a range of about 5 nautical miles, so you know if they're not coming back for you if you don't hear anything after 5 nautical miles, but they're pretty effective. We obviously gave it a try before we all jumped over the side, but we didn't. But it works quite well. It just brings up the alarm on your plotter. So that was our extra. The reason why we did it, yes, there is a shipping lane there. The water's bloody cold, so one thing we used to do when I was working down in Bass Strait was sea safety survival, and you'd only last about 3/4 of an hour in the temperature down there. So by the time someone decided to fly a plane over you and say, oh, there you are, and then get a boat out to you, you probably were a bit stiff. So we thought it was a good idea. This is the idea where the boat will turn around, come back and get you. Okay?
Bill, that doesn't require a modification to the system on the boat. It's just an AI.
No, what?
Is that all it is? Yeah.
What it does, you've just got to, it flashes, and it flashed so you can actually synchronise it with your GPS on your chart plotter on the boat, and then it's obviously tagged to that. So if you move from boat to boat, you've got to redo it on the next boat you get on.
Just a setting within your chart plotter.
No, it just brings the man overboard alarm up. So it pings on the plotter, X marks the spot, and the boat's sailing away and they decide they're going to come back and get you, they can see it on the plotter. Okay?
Any boat within 5 kilometres will pick that up.
Or radio. Yeah. Okay. That was me. without going down the coast.
Yeah. Richard, we had great weather on the trip down. What were your highlights on the trip right down into Hobart? We had some good spots.
Yeah, so once we made the sort of the mainland of Tasmania, I think it was we left Lady Barron and went rather than go out through the same way. I always like to go a different way. Much to Bill's up, he had already planned a weather route the other way anyway. So we went through round the back of Barron Island.
Cape
Yeah.
Barron.
Yeah, Cape Barron. Yeah,
Barron.
there's another island down there. So we went back round there, and it was really interesting rock formations, and it was quite beautiful through there. And we came across the Banks Strait, which is notorious for tides and currents and whatnot. I think we probably lucked out. We had just flat water, and we had to actually motor through there. So we motored through there. It was just like glass out for a while, just with seals banging around next to you and all that kind of thing. It was just nice. And then we got down to sort of Swan Island, which is near Muscle Row and all that, down just on the eastern top corner of Tasmania. And we got a bit of breeze, and we put the kite up, and we had champagne sailing. It was just beautiful sailing along. And we made it that evening to what was it?
St. Helena Island.
St. Helens, yeah. So you got St. Helens, which has got a really bad bar, a bar crossing I don't recommend you take. So we went a little bit further, and there's a little island there with a little horseshoe bay in it. We snuggled in there, and it was lovely. One of the highlights for me was going into Wineglass Bay. I've heard a lot about it, but it's such a beautiful place with all the granite rock, and it's just one of those places. Reminds me of like my New Zealand heritage of down south, in all those fjords and that. It's so enormously steep granite rock formations, and it's just a really nice place to go into. And we anchored in there, and the water is just so clear.
You did on the way back as well.
Yes, and I think that's where we got Alistair in the water. We both had it. Like Bill and I were having a bit of a swim thing off the back of the boat as a bit of a ritual, and then finally we got Alistair to do it.
I was smelling that.
It was
We were nearly going to throw him in.
it was just so clear, the water. It's just like, you can see the bottom in 6 meters. It's that kind of stuff, So that was really good. And then the next day we headed through Shooting Passage and around Maria Island, and I thought we might get some fuel and whatnot. So we went into a place called, right across that bay, Spring Bay, into a place called Triabuna. It's like a little fishing village, and pulled in there, and we found out they had a really good fish and chips and whatnot. So we got fuel, fish and chips, whatever. Oysters, the whole 9 yards. And then we headed out of there to the back of Maria Island for a really nice, by the time we got there it was night time. The next day we had aspirations of doing the fantastic Tasman Island and all that kind of thing around the bottom of the Cape. We set off with good intentions, but the weather started to come in southerly pretty hard. So we had tide, so we decided to go through what they call Dun Alley Channel, which cuts about 30 miles out, and that takes you. It sort of cuts off the whole bottom southeastern sort of corner of the Tasman Peninsula, and takes you in through a bar crossing, but through a waterway, and then we go through a bridge, a lock, like a swing bridge thing. And the lock operator, lovely bloke, I think Bill was on the radio to him, sort of saying we're coming and this and that and the other. And he even took photos of us coming through and out. So that was really made it easy. And then that really got us into I think Norfolk Bay, which is sort of the eastern side of Storm Bay, if you like. So you're sort of getting pretty much into the Hobart area. And then we all sort of got excited about the fact that we found out there's a whiskey bar on Breedy Island. Maybe we could make it. So we set sail and hightailed it into a little bay, Barnes Bay, I think it's called, and got to the whiskey bar before it closed, and there's a photo caption somewhere of us all enjoying the delights of that kind of thing. So that was a good trip down.
So timing-wise, I spent 2 weeks with you, and me and Bill got into Hobart, and we had a scrub, didn't we? We went to a wash house and got cleaned and scrubbed, and the next day we flew out, and that was just in time for your good lady Ros to arrive in the afternoon. So you had, what, a couple of weeks holiday, and what was Ros is not here, but I was going to ask her what did she enjoy holiday in around Hobart?
Well, I think the first thing that before Ros arrived, we found out that Constitution Dock, the famous dock where all the Sydney Hobart yachts go, and King's Pier and all that kind of thing, you have to get used to the fact that you're in Tasmania once you arrive there. You can go in there, pull up, stay the night, no problem, not a problem. You don't pay anything. It's just like, cool, you just pull in and all good. The only thing we didn't have was, because I'd arranged to go into the proper marina thing and blah, 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 and it's all run by Tas Ports, and they're not the most efficient of organisations. So the only thing we couldn't get was we didn't have any showers and power and stuff like that. But the first thing we got when we got on land was a scallop pie. So up the pub, you got to go and get one of those. The scallop pie is like a traditional thing. So we did that, and then I came up with the brainwave that, well, if we haven't got showers, why don't we go at one of those bathhouse places, which worked out pretty good because they got all the steam bath, the sauna, you get a beautician job done there, is the whole thing. It's brilliant. And what's the best thing to do in a cold climate? That's what you want to do. So we came out of there feeling pretty good, didn't we? Yeah, it was good. And then, unfortunately, these guys kind of got jetted off the next morning, didn't you? So then my partner arrived, and we did a bit of a tour around. We ended up buying a couple of jackets because it was pretty cold down there, and set off on a bit of a sail towards Bruny Island. Nice wind. Wouldn't have been more than about a mile off out of the dock, and my partner reached round to grab something that she thought was going to fall over the side, and she cracked a rib or sprained a rib or some bloody thing. So she was a bit tender for the rest of the trip, but yeah, it was great. We went to sort of down towards where the Bruny Island Bay, where that island's got so many cruising potential places. The whole place has. So we went there and we met up with one of her girlfriends that she hadn't met for a few years, and ended up going to the oyster place, the Get Shucked place, and a couple of pubs and this and that and the other. And then I really wanted to go to the Commandy pub, which was where I think Bill and Lyndon took us there at the wooden boat. So we sailed up through there after that, and it's a beautiful place. It's where the fellow that owns the rigging place in Sydney, Noakes Rigging, Sean Langman, he's got all his old wooden boats up there and all that kind of thing. So we went up there, had a lunch and muck around, and then we went into Port Signet, into a place called Copperelli Bay, and then we saw Gretel too, which a bloke from Sydney owns, and it's got the whole bay, and it's all just set there ready to go. And we ended up sort of sailing our way out of there and through round Iron Pot, and then to down to, what is it called? The Port Arthur. Thanks, mate. Yeah, down that way. We couldn't get down there because of Roz's rib and the worry about the swell. So we went into a place called Nubina, which is a really nice little fishing village, and found a way to get to Port Arthur from there. It was really good. And then did a bit more cruising around, and then she basically headed back home again. And then after that, I hang on, keep going for a sec. After that, I found some other cruising people. The wooden boats down there are really prolific. It's just amazing how how people just adopt wooden boats, and it's really where John loved it down there, didn't you? The wooden boats. So there's a yacht. So I went to Port Signet, and there's a wooden boat repair yard in there, and I met up with a fellow, and we're talking, just talking boats and stuff. And he said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" And I said, "Oh, nothing planned." He said, "Well, we got that racing tomorrow night. Why don't you come out on Tierra?" She's just restored her 1870s gaff boat, like 45-foot thing. So that's the picture you'll see up there somewhere as it's going through. So I got a sail on Tierra, just racing around in the Port Signet race, and the people in the club were very accommodating. So I thought they had a race on, I think that weekend. So I said, "Well, can I go in that?" And they said, "Yeah, you can come in that." So we sailed up to the Huon Yacht Club, which is just up the Huon River, and did a bit of a race up there. They got a lot of etchels, and mainly etchels in there, and they're just cruising boats and even dragons and all sorts of wooden boats. So we did that race and a few hot shots. We did that race and then came back out again. And that's the boat there you see up on the screen now. And then Gretel, you see, is just around the corner, in a bay just around the corner. The guy's got that. So it's a really amazing place. I really love it.
There's a set of slides, Richard. Bathurst Harbour, Port Davey. I picked up one of your Facebook stories, and do you want to talk us through getting there? It's pretty remote, and what do you find up there?
Yes, well, that was certainly one of the bucket list things to try and achieve. So it's about 60 miles round the bottom of Tasmania. So the next place is the Antarctic after that. So you do get the westerly winds and a lot of swell and what have you. So the general plan for that is you go down to Research Bay, hang around in there and wait till you get the weather window. I was lucky enough just to go down there and I thought, yeah, it looks pretty good. So we headed off around the corner. It's about 60 miles to get into Port Davey, Bathurst Harbour and all that kind of thing. So I actually did it in 2 hits. So there's a place called Louisa Bay, which a lot of the fishing, I got some mates that used to fish down there and do the lobster fishing. And they said, you can sneak in there. There's another little bay in there as well that they all go into. So I went in there and that was just a beautiful night. And then the next day got into Schooner Bay in the Bathurst Channel sort of thing. That place is steeped with history. It's never been tamed fully by man. So many people have tried to exploit it for its, well, obviously the hue and pine, tin mining later on. They thought they could farm the place, but it's all button grass, which is not what cattle eat. So it's one of the last frontiers where you can only get there in a sailboat or a motorboat or fly, or you have to walk 60 miles. It's a long way to walk. People do it. So there's a fellow down there who sort of was the cornerstone of the whole place for the last 30 or 40 years, passed away now, but a fellow called Denny King, and he set up a bit of a camp down there back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Even Sir Edmund Hillary came down and visited him. He's that well known for being like a bushman, and he ended up putting an airfield in there. So nowadays you can fly in there and land. And if you've got deep pockets, you can go down there and stay in a really nice cruising boat, big cruising boat thing down there. You can fly in on an amphibious plane, and then it's about $5,000 a night to stay there and try and experience it, or take your sailboat down there and spend your time. So I spent about 10 days down there, and I tried to cover a bit of it. I went up the river called the Melaleuca River, which is where Denny King sort of lived up the top. There was another place called Clayton's Corner where there was his cousin or whatever lived there for a while. Walked a couple of the mountains, and then went around to Port Davey, and apparently that was where they built about 100 ships there. in the day because the hue and pine was prevalent there, and it was easier to build a ship in those days where there was wood than worry about transporting it to build it somewhere else. So there's nothing there to see that there was ships built there now. It's, you know, the vegetation just grows back over and you can't see it. But there is a couple of shots where I went up the river, and there's like a gorge at the end of it. I remember sitting in my little tender going up there. It was about 7 or 8 miles. It took me quite a while. I had quite a sore ass at the end of it sitting on the boat. But went up there and had a look at that and up the gorge, and it was, just good to be alive up there. It's just a fantastic place. There's Starlink down there. That's it. Yeah, there's nothing. So that's it. What you can do is you get near the commercial boat, and the Starlink's open, so you can sort of get internet to find out what the weather's going to do for the next couple of days. And I hung around there for quite a while. Quite happy with it. 10 days, and then did a couple of walks. There's a sunrise on the morning I left. That bay over the other side is Stevens Bay. That's sort of where they used to land in there and walk through for the tin mining. That's one of the cruise ships in there. Mount Rugby, I think, in the background, possibly. It's a very big waterway when you get in there, and it's very, very nice. But I decided to, there was a Katana 47 catamaran there, and those people I'd seen before. You meet the same people and you sort of get to know them, and we had a chat, and they were leaving the next day, so I said, well, I might buddy up with you guys and sail back. It worked out to be a godsend in some ways because we sailed back. We had pretty good weather on the way back. If you look at that one there, you can see me up the top of the mast. Well, that's after we got back. So we sailed round in the morning, and we ended up getting back to Research Bay. I had a reef in the main, and the halyard jammed. I couldn't get the main down. It's a bit of a bother when you're by yourself. So we got into Research Bay, and I said to Pete, can you come over and winch me up the mast? So I anchored up, had the main up, sitting there flapping. He winched me up, cut the shackle, dropped the main, and about 10 minutes later, the westerly came through, and we sat there for 3 or 4 days in strong winds. I was very, very happy to get that main down. That's what it's like. And then to top that off, down in Tasmania, you're sort of stuck down. What do I do now? The sheaves the plastic sheaves in the top of the mast have just worn out from strong winds and what have you. So I rang up a bloke that I'd met at another marina further back and spoken to, young bloke, and he was up at Port Ewan, and he just machined up some stainless steel ones. $100 later, he's machined up 2 sheaves. He came down with his dad. I met him at the Port Ewan Yacht Club. He winched me up, put the sheaves in, all fixed. It's a fantastic place to get stuff done on your boat. People are just they just make things happen. They don't worry about anything. Just make it happen. Even there was another place I was in, a marina, not Margate. What's the other one?
Oh, Winter Wales.
No, where do we have that dinner? No, the other marina, the marina on halfway down the race. Margate and the other one. Kettering. So I was in there, fantastic marina, great services. Angelo down there, the rigger guy, I said, it's still sticking. I said, can you come up and have a look? And he had a look. He climbed up the mast and he freed it up. And I said, well, I'll fix you up. And he said, nah, don't worry about it. You'll be right. Okay. So, people down there are just so cruisy. It's so easy. It's a great place to, even like the marinas down there, compared to here, it's like $40 for a berth, It's just, everything's like the right price and it's easily done, no problem.
So that must have taken you to about March, and I reckon, is that about when John Bell and Lindsay came down to help you with the trip back? Do you want to talk about that? And you did a regatta as well with those guys?
Yeah.
So, I was getting a bit lonely by that stage. So, John and Lindsay, we organised, $85 for a flight down. You couldn't really miss that, could you? So, is that coming through all right? So, they had the Port Signet regatta I thought, oh, that'd be cool. So that sort of was the catalyst to invite a couple of guys, these guys down that might want to come down. So we did that. That sort of meant you went back up to, I met the guys at Hobart, and there was a feeder race down from Hobart to Cygnet, and then the sort of main race from Cygnet from Kettering into Port Cygnet the next day, and then they had a bit of a regatta in there. There was some pretty racy boats down there, wasn't there, John? Yeah, she was lovely, yeah. But there was a couple of guys that are pretty hot shots. So I think we got third in one race, but we didn't really feature too much in the lighter wind ones in the bay. And John was on the foredeck, and there's a shot of him with his pants hanging down. Anyway, that's another one. You want to have a talk about that?
No.
Oh, come on. You come up, you can have a talk.
No, they managed to get the furler wrapped around in a bit of a blow, and trying to undo that, it got worse and worse and worse. So I ended up bending over, trying to undo it at the bottom, pulling up, and the guy behind me feeding rope through. It was just a visitor for the day. And then at the end of it, they showed me this photograph they'd taken, and it was not pleasant. In fact, I may even have appeared on the website. Thank you, Alistair. Yeah. But the main thing about going to, I had a bucket list of my own. I wanted to get some experience in cruising. I've done lots of round the buoy races, but no seamanships type stuff. But there's no point in planning any bucket list with this guy. He said, oh, coming over, we'll go, I've done the sort of East Coast, we'll go back up the West Coast through Strawn around the top end. I thought, yeah, you beauty, I'll do that. When I get down there, he says, oh, I've done that, I'm not going there again. So that changed it. Another thing, he'd say, oh, we're going to go, well, a late morning, there's no, we'll turn in and say, no need to get up, we'll just have a cruisy morning. 6:30, he's up there pulling the anchor up because he wants to go off somewhere else. So whatever you plan, just forget it.
Wind's probably got up.
Yeah, something changed. There'd be a good reason for it. Yeah. The main reason I wanted to cross Bass Strait in a blow, get some experience. You've seen one of the gas fields there, absolutely flat. We had motored for 100 miles from Deal Island up to Lake's Entrance, not a breath of wind the whole way. So nothing he does is right. So don't go with Richard if you've got a bucket list. Other than that, it was a great experience. Lovely bloke to sail with, very good with the cooking, certainly didn't starve. But the main thing was, I've been to the wooden boat, the Hobart festivals, seen the races, seen all this, had not realised just how much cruising potential's down there. There were just little boats in every little place you go, you can chat to anybody, and there's just so much space. You can get away from people quickly, or you can go more up and chat to them. It's a really good cruising ground. That's my view.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's I didn't realise the potential to cruise down there in that Storm Bay kind of catchment. It's massive. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I think Tasmanian people, Hobartians, are really spoilt for cruising, and most of them have a boat. Everybody down there pretty much has a boat, and it might be a wooden boat as well, because they're just. It's amazing how many young people are involved in the older boats. I found on that Tierra, there was like 16 and 17-year-old kids on there, and they were loving it. It was just so good to see young people involved in really good sailing. It was fantastic.
Do you want to talk about the return trip back up to back? What you did different?
Yeah, so with Bill and Alistair, we did that trip you can see now that's straight across. It was the quickest way across. It cuts out, that was 185 miles, it cuts out about 100 nautical miles from following the mainland further down all the way to the lake's entrance, or even further down to Wilson's Promontory. So, but that's kind of like the way you can tiptoe down and hop along and not leave the mainland kind of thing. So on the way back, we really retraced the steps that we took on the way down, apart from the fact that we actually got round Tasman Island this time because the tides weren't right to go through the Dunalley Channel. So we ended up going around that sort of, a pretty raw place around the bottom of Tasman Island, And I can remember I didn't get many photographs because I was pretty busy trying to hold on to things. John luckily got a couple of shots of the beautiful rock formations and what have you. But the winds down there, I find the winds are, it might be 14 knots, but it's different to 14 knots up here. It's just much denser wind, and with black sails, when it hits it, mate, it hits it hard. So that the boat's on its ear, kind of thing. So we sailed up there, up round the. We were stuck in Port Arthur about a couple 3 days with bad weather, and then we sort of decided we're going to go now. So we went, and we went round Tasman Island, right round the outside. There was no way we were going through between it, and then up to Mercury Bay, I think they call it. Wasn't too bad. We got up there. I think John was on the main sheet quite a bit because you had to flag the main sheet off every now and again when you got a big woolly one. And we had one little sort of scary part where we came into that bay and it started blowing up again. And I was trying to furl the Genoa, and the furling rope, basically the Genoa had stretched. When it was blowing 20 knots and you're trying to furl it, and the rope kind of stretched that much that it really wasn't around the drum. I ended up pulling the bloody anchor point out of the drum. So we had, that's not handy. So I had to get John and Lindsay, credit to them, they got the Genoa down. I went in behind a little island thing, we got the Genoa down and called it a day for the Genoa that day and just sailed by the main back into Triaburna. And then next day we did a bit of a jury rig. I think we put a soft shackle around the drum of the furler and managed to. It's still working now. Yeah, so that was good. That was a bit scary at one stage, and then after that, we sort of retraced the steps up round back through. We had a nice night at Shooting Passage. It was really nice, and then Wineglass Bay and walked up the top, and it's such a lovely place to look at. And then we went through. Where was that other place? What was the place we had the lunch and stuff? Oh, anyway. Yeah, but no, on mainland I'm talking about. Can't remember now. Anyway, we just worked our way up the coast, and then stayed in St Helens and before the bar crossing, and then up to Flinders, and then we sailed up to. No, we sailed up through the west coast of Flinders up to Prime Seal Island. That's where Bill wanted to go on the way down, but never got to it. And we had a beautiful night there. Then we had a really nice sail across to.
I cleaned the keel, half the keel.
Hey?
That's where I cleaned half the keel.
That's right. Yeah.
I told him it was the whole keel, but just half of it.
Yeah, he got in the water. Yeah, that's right. And beautiful sailing in there too. And then we got up to Deal Island, which was interesting because the caretaker guy there had a chat to us. And then one of John's mates from the Wooden Boat Festival, he happened to pop in there and sailed. Yeah.
So this guy's a regular contributor, so we know him well, but he certainly didn't. And I'm also the treasurer, so when I turned up, he said, "I've paid my subs. You don't have to chase me." But just an example of island life. He lost his phone at Deal Island. It fell in the bilge. So he's been away for a while, he needs to ring his wife. So he calls the Coast Guard, says, "Can you call my wife?" And so they do that. He says, "Lost my phone." The Coast Guard rings back and says, "Oh, your wife's organised a phone for you down in Whitechapel." And just on Flinders. So he goes all the way over from Flinders to Flinders from Deal. And they say at the phone place, "Yeah, we might be closed when you get here, but we'll leave it behind the shelf under there. You just pick it up." And it's just that sort of relaxed island life that everyone helps out, and no fear of stuff being stolen.
Yeah, it's Flinders Island's a special place. Everybody, you realise when you're driving there, everybody waves at you, it's that's the go-to thing. But after that, I think, John had to get back, so he left us at Lake's entrance. As he said, we had to motor across. We thought we were going to sail, but it just glassed out, and it's, you know, probably the better of two evils to have a glass out than have it blow up, you know, kind of thing. It was 100 miles through there, like pretty monotonous, but we got in late at night into Lakes Entrance, and sort of wet and rainy in there for a couple of days, and then Lindsay and I headed off, and again light winds. I think we made it to Point Hicks, and then the next day we got to Gabo, and I was stupid enough to wrap the dinghy paint around the prop, so I had to jump in the water at Gabo Island and try and that was fun, get that off. And then after that we had it was all upwind sailing again. We had northerlies, fantastic. So we had to tack all the way up to Eden, and then tack all the way up to. We stayed there for a few days because the weather came in. It was pretty rugged, and then we had to tack all the way up to Bermagui, and then all the way up to Bateman's. I don't remember now. And then from there we made it into. Oh, that's right. We made it into the back of Sussex Inlet, sort of thing. No, we didn't. No, we didn't make it to Jervis Bay. We made it one bay before it. Yeah, Wreck Bay, and then again it was all upwind, so we had to. It was all banging into the wind, kind of thing, and got to Jervis Bay, stayed there at night, and then we got that southerly, and we had a really good run that got us 100 miles all the way home in one hit, or 98 miles, whatever it was, and we got back here. That was good. We had to go to Bali, yeah, that's right. The next trip. Yeah, but fuel-wise, it was a bit scary because when we got into like all that stuff with Donald Trump and the no fuel and whatnot, some of the places I think the fishermen were worried about how much the fuel was, but they obviously wanted to hold on to their fuel. And I remember I was worried about getting it at Lakes Entrance. We were lucky enough because the only place you get it is a fishing co-op, but the fuel was on, and so we pumped fuel in. I think it was about $2.30 or something, so it wasn't too bad at that stage. And we got fuel there, and then that was probably the worst of it, really, where you're just wondering whether you're going to have fuel or not, you know. But
How much fuel did you use altogether?
I reckon about maybe 400 litres, 500 litres.
3 months.
Yeah, I don't like motoring. Well, we covered 2,400 miles, and like I would say, 80% of that would have been under sail, at least, you know. Yeah.
I haven't got any more questions.
Anybody got?
More questions? Yep. What's the draft going on?
2.3.
2.3.
Yep.
When you crossed Bass Strait, did you wait for a weather window?
Yeah, well, Bill was sort of pretty keen on trying to work out the weather, and he did a pretty good job. So we didn't go across Bass Strait on the way down. You get in trouble if you say that. Bass Strait's further out to the east, isn't it? West.
Talk about it.
But so the Sydney Hobart boats don't go down through Bass Strait, do they? It's all bullshit. They don't go through Bass Strait.
No, if you
Tasman Sea.
If you look where most of the Hobart boats go, they're well out, well east. What I said about Bass Strait is it's known for being treacherous in terms of squalls, being shallow water as well. So basically, Bass Strait is anywhere from Lakes Entrance, draw a line across to Deal Island down to Flinders. So the passage we picked going down there was the few days after the Hobart yachts took off, and they got hammered into Bass Strait. The wind actually started backing around to the east-northeast, and we had a 19-22 knot nor'easter, so we were just hammering the whole way down. And I can remember we didn't tack the whole time, or we didn't jibe the whole time. The only time we jibed was around the Potboil going into Flinders.
Well, it sounds tricky when it's called the Potboil. Doesn't sound great, does it? If you've got navionics, you'd have to be stupid to get in trouble. Like, you just got to feel your way in. There is shallow spots in there, like 2 or 3 metres. But yeah, in bad weather, I think you could come a gutser. But if it's just normal conditions, not too bad. And if you had bad weather and you're worried about it, you just slip down the bottom right around Clark Island, and there's a couple of bays in there. So there's always a plan B if you've worked it out, But Lady Barron is a place where if you get in there and there's some weather, it's like being in the pit water. It's like really sheltered and some great places to get away from stuff. Well, it's not too bad. It's really there's always a lock manager there from about 8 o'clock till about 5 o'clock. So the protocol is that you obviously coming from the top here, you go through that bar, and it gets down to about 2.9 or something through there. So you need to time that like a normal bar crossing on the top, and then once you're in there, you could muck around in there. You don't have to go through in a day, but you can, and then you just radio the bridge people, because they open the bridge for you. So you just radio them, and usually you want the slack water to go through there, because there's a bit of water if you go at the wrong time, but they won't open it for you if you go through at the wrong time. And so it all works pretty well. It's only on the way back the tides weren't right for us, because they don't open the bridge at midnight, and if you need a tide at midnight, well, it's not going to happen. Yeah, then you have to go around the outside like we did. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're doing that trip, you just sort of have a monitor. If that's a priority to you to go through there, just make sure the tides are somewhere through the daytime, I guess, Yeah. If you're going down there, a diesel heater's really good, just saying. Because it's just what I found down there, like the yachts we have up here, we all sit out in the stern and sail away, and it's all nice with a bimini or something or other like that. We're worried about the sun beating down us. Over there, it's the wind is really cold, so you're out there. So most boats down there, apart from all our races, have they're all like those cruisers with all clears and stuff around them, or you got a deck saloon or a pilot cabin type boat, because it does get cold. The weather was fantastic, Denise. It was not very much rain, but I must say it's still cold. Yeah, the wind is cold. So if there's any wind, it's sort of coolish, But they're beautiful. Yeah, sunny. Yeah. So So that the typical times that they suggest you go down there is either just before Christmas. Just before Christmas is pretty good, and then up till around about March, April. That's about the sort of for us northerners, it's about the time to go down there and cruise and sample it, because it gets a bit sort of gnarly after that.
That other boat didn't go down, either going more than 8 years.
No.
How much chain do you have on your
50 metres? Not much. I didn't find the anchorages to be a problem with chain and stuff. Some people, well, maybe they are in certain places, but didn't really think you needed a whole lot more. Maybe if I was worried about it, I'd probably put a splice on the appropriate nylon rope on there and make it longer. My winch did pack it in, probably just through neglect and what have you. So I had to put a new winch in down there. That was another experience. But that's where they make Muir winches, so it's really handy down the road. They make the Muir winches, and so I rang them up, and they made one up for me, and it was well priced, and they're a great winch. So if you want to get something done down there in your boat, like a haul out is about probably $300 to get it lifted out, and it's about probably $30 or $40 a day, and yeah, it's just not like here. they have to work on boats down there, and they're used to it, and they do it, and they're very resourceful people.
So I'll just make a quick comment about the diesel heaters. I'm living in a caravan in Bathurst, which is like subalpine. Temperatures even now are 0 to 2 degrees overnight. We've got one diesel heater in there. It's on a timer. It comes on in the morning. And the caravan's even bigger than most boat saloons. And it just keeps the place so warm. And we put in 5 litres a week. It's a very, very economical way of heating the place for a small space.
Right. If there's no more questions, we might wrap it up. Thank Bill for coming, for answering, talking about your experience in Bass Strait, and thanks for coming along with the trip for us. And Richard, your wealth of knowledge, always appreciated. And where are you going next, mate? Thank you.
Well, I'm thinking, before I get the walking frame, the next trip, I think, I'm talking myself into it. It's probably Cape York or somewhere like that. Yeah, somewhere a bit far away from Sydney as possible. Maybe warm, I don't know. But yeah, that's an aspiration, to get up there and have a bit of a look around and poke around up there. Maybe next year, we'll see what happens.